When I met my fiancé's parents, his mother splashed wine on me and sneered, "That's to clean a poor girl. Pay $200,000 to wed my son." My fiancé laughed, so I smiled and said, "I'm ending every deal with your firm." Can you imagine having red wine thrown in your face at a fancy dinner, only for your fiancé to laugh and tell you to pay a $200,000 dowry to marry him? What if that family tradition meant your entire business, everything you'd ever built, was suddenly on the line? I'm Amanda, and a year ago, my life took a turn I never saw coming. I was 28, a tech founder, and I'd spent 5 grueling years building my company from absolutely nothing. Then I fell head over heels for Ethan, a 30-year-old financial analyst from what I thought was just a successful family. When he proposed, I was ecstatic. I truly believed I'd found my person. But then I met his mother, Judith. And let me tell you, that woman was a force of nature, a destructive one. My parents were teachers, and they taught me the value of hard work. We weren't wealthy, but we had enough, and I worked my way through college on scholarships and part-time jobs. 5 years ago, I launched my tech company out of my tiny apartment. Those first few years? Brutal. 18-hour days, ramen noodles, constant rejection. But I had a unique software platform for supply chain management, and slowly, clients started noticing. By year 5, we had over 100 employees and 3 offices. I was living my dream. I met Ethan at a fintech conference in Boston. He was tall, with kind eyes, and seemed genuinely impressed by my work. Our connection was immediate. He was smart, ambitious, and supported my career, even bringing me coffee during late nights at the office. When he proposed with a vintage emerald ring, I didn't hesitate. I said yes. It was only after we got engaged that he started talking about his family more. He called his father, Richard, old school but fair, and his mother, Judith, particular. When I pressed for details, he'd just shrug, "Mom's just traditional. She'll love you once she gets to know you." I wish I'd paid more attention to those subtle warnings. The Walkers weren't just wealthy, they were old money, with connections woven through the entire East Coast business world. Their social circle included senators and CEOs, the kind of people I'd only read about in magazines. The irony? 6 months before our engagement, my company had secured a contract with Walker Industries, their family business. We were modernizing their inventory system. It was a significant contract, about 20% of our annual revenue, but I'd only dealt with their procurement team, never the Walker family directly. As the dinner approached, I was a wreck. I researched etiquette, bought a conservative but elegant dress. Ethan just said, "Just be yourself." Easy for him to say. The Walker estate was a Georgian mansion, columns, immaculate gardens, a driveway lined with perfectly manicured trees. "You didn't tell me you grew up in a literal mansion," I whispered to Ethan. He just squeezed my hand. "It's just a house." But it wasn't just a house. It was a monument to generational wealth and privilege. Judith appeared, elegant in black, a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan, darling," she cooed, air-kissing him. Then her eyes swept over me, a quick, cold assessment. "And you must be Amanda. Ethan has told us so little about you." The emphasis was not subtle. Her handshake was brief, barely a touch. Richard, Ethan's father, was taller, with silver hair, and offered a warmer greeting. But the moment we sat down, the interrogation began. "So, Amanda," Judith started, "what does your father do?" "He was a high school history teacher. Retired now." "A teacher?" She said it like it was a foreign concept. "And your mother?" "Elementary school librarian. She passed away 3 years ago." "No family money then? No trust fund or inheritance?" Ethan murmured, "Mom," but it was more amusement than reproach. "Fiancé," I corrected gently, a knot forming in my stomach. "And no trust fund. I built my company from the ground up." "Yes." Ethan mentioned some sort of computer business. "Tech solutions, actually. We develop specialized software. In fact, my company has been working with Walker Industries for 6 months now." "The new inventory system being implemented?" "That's our platform." A flicker in Judith's eyes. "I wasn't aware." "Well, I leave those details to our managers," she dismissed, effectively ending that conversation. Throughout the meal, Judith found fault with everything. My posture, my voice, how I complimented their home. Each criticism came with a tight smile, as if she were doing me a favor. When I tried to discuss our successful partnership, she waved her hand dismissively. Business talk is so tedious at dinner. Tell me, Amanda, have you given any thought to children? The Walker line is quite important. I'd like to ensure my company is stable first, I said carefully. Her face hardened. A mother's primary responsibility is to her children, not her hobby. My company isn't a hobby. We employ over 100 people. And 100 people dependent on you, she interrupted. How will you possibly manage that and properly raise Walker heirs? I looked at Ethan for support. He was suddenly fascinated by his roast beef. By dessert, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. I made one last attempt at civility. Mrs. Walker, I understand you chair the hospital foundation. That's admirable work. Philanthropy is a Walker tradition, she said, almost pleased. Perhaps someday you might be equipped to participate. Actually, my company has a foundation that provides tech education for underprivileged youth. We've helped over 50 students attend college so far. How quaint, she sniffed. She took a sip of wine, then looked directly at me. Let's be frank, Amanda. You seem enterprising, but the Walker family has certain standards. Ethan holds a position in society that requires a suitable partner. I believe I am suitable, I said quietly. Do you? Without warning, she flung the contents of her wine glass directly into my face. The red liquid splashed across my cheeks, dripping onto my new dress. I gasped, absolutely stunned. That's to disinfect a poor girl, she said calmly. If you want to marry my son, you'll need to contribute a $200,000 dowry to the Walker Family Trust. Consider it an entrance fee. I sat there, frozen, wine dripping down my face, unable to comprehend what had just happened. But even more shocking? Ethan. He laughed. Actually laughed. Mom has her ways, he chuckled, handing me his napkin. She did the same thing to my cousin's wife. Richard looked deeply uncomfortable, but said nothing. It's a family tradition, Judith explained, as if this was perfectly normal. The Walker family doesn't marry down without compensation. Your business may be successful now, but startups are notoriously unstable. The dowry ensures you're committed to the family, not just to Ethan's trust fund. I dabbed at my face, my hands shaking. I had no idea marriage required a purchase price. Everything valuable has a cost, Judith replied. If you truly love Ethan, this shouldn't be an issue. The car ride home was silent for what felt like an eternity. I waited for Ethan to say something, anything, to acknowledge the humiliation. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Are you going to say anything about what your mother did? Ethan sighed. I told you she was particular. Particular? Ethan? She threw wine in my face and demanded I pay to marry you. It's just how Mom is. She did the same thing to Jennifer. Once you pay the dowry, she'll warm up to you. I stared at him in disbelief. You think I'm going to pay $200,000 to join your family? It's not a big deal. You can afford it with your company doing so well. That's not the point. It's degrading and archaic. And you laughed, Ethan. You laughed when she assaulted me. Assaulted? He rolled his eyes. Don't be so dramatic. It's a family tradition. If you want to be part of this family, you need to respect our ways. That night, our engagement ended in all but name. What disturbed me most wasn't Judith's behavior, it was Ethan's. He didn't defend me, didn't apologize for his mother. He seemed genuinely perplexed by my upset. I told him I needed space to think. Don't overthink this, Amanda, he said, kissing my forehead. Just pay the dowry and we can move past it. I barely slept. I kept replaying the dinner, wondering if I'd overreacted. By morning, a twisted part of me was almost convinced this was some bizarre test. Then my phone rang. It was Judith. Amanda, dear, I'm following up about our discussion last night. My assistant will send the wire transfer details today. We expect the dowry to be paid within 30 days, or we'll have to reconsider Ethan's engagement. She spoke as if we were discussing a routine business transaction, not the purchase of her son. Mrs. Walker, I'm not comfortable with. Also, she interrupted, I've scheduled a meeting with your team next week. There are some adjustments we'd like to make to the software implementation. Nothing major, just a few customizations. Then she hung up. Those adjustments turned out to be major system overhauls that weren't in our contract and would cost my company thousands of development hours. When I tried to explain this, Judith smiled coldly. I'm sure you can accommodate us, given our personal connection. Ethan would be disappointed if his fiancé couldn't manage such a simple request. The threat was crystal clear: pay the dowry and do the extra work, or lose both the relationship and the contract. Ethan's calls and texts started. Mom's getting impatient. Have you transferred the dowry yet? Ethan, does it not bother you that your mother is holding our relationship hostage? Don't be so American about it, he said, his tone patronizing. In many cultures, dowries are normal. Just pay it, Amanda, for us. My best friend, Stephanie, was horrified. That's insane. You're not actually considering paying, are you? I don't know. I love Ethan, but this feels so wrong. Stephanie had a cousin who worked for a law firm that represented the Boston elite. 2 days later, she called me with disturbing news. This dowry tradition isn't just for Ethan's sister-in-law, Amanda. The Walkers have demanded similar payments from multiple people. And here's the kicker. Those who paid didn't suddenly become accepted. The demands just changed form. Ethan's last fiancée, Melissa, she paid. Then they demanded she quit her job because Walker women don't work. When she refused, Ethan broke it off. I felt sick. My curiosity turned into a desperate need for answers. I tracked down Melissa, Ethan's ex-fiancée. What she told me confirmed my worst fears. After I paid, they controlled everything, she said. Where we lived, who we socialized with, even when we would have children. When I resisted, Judith threatened to have my father's business blacklisted. Ethan always sided with her. Meanwhile, the business relationship was deteriorating rapidly. Judith called daily with new demands, criticizing my staff, threatening to find another vendor. And Ethan's pressure intensified. Mom's getting impatient. This is embarrassing for me. If you really loved me, this wouldn't be an issue. He completely dismissed my concerns about his mother's business tactics. You're being paranoid. Business and personal should be separate. But they weren't. Not for Judith. She was weaponizing the business to force my compliance in personal matters. And slowly, agonizingly, I started to see that Ethan was complicit. 3 weeks after the disastrous dinner, I confronted him. I need to know where your loyalty lies, Ethan. With me, your future wife, or with your mother? That's not fair, he protested. I love you, but I respect my family's traditions. Even when those traditions involve humiliating and extorting your fiancé, you're overreacting. It's just money, Amanda. You have it. Why not pay? Because I won't be bought or sold. Marriage should be about love and partnership. His expression hardened. You Americans are so obsessed with romantic notions. Marriage has always been about family alliances and financial stability. My family is offering you social connections most people would kill for. At the price of my dignity? The argument escalated until Ethan stormed out. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text. It wasn't from Ethan. It was from an unknown number. The message contained screenshots of a conversation between Ethan and his mother. Mother, Ethan, she's still being difficult about the dowry. Ethan, keep pressuring her. The business contract gives us leverage. Mother, what if she still refuses? Ethan, then she's not Walker material. Remember your trust fund conditions. Mother, I'll bring her in line. She just needs to understand how things work. I felt physically ill. The man I loved, the man I thought respected me as an equal, had been conspiring with his mother all along. This wasn't just about a family tradition. It was about control. I later found out the text was sent by Richard's personal assistant, who had witnessed too many similar scenarios and felt compelled to warn me. 2 days later, Judith called with an invitation, or rather, a summons. We're having a family dinner this Saturday to discuss the situation. The entire family will be present. We expect you to attend with a decision about the dowry. The dinner was as intimidating as intended. Ethan's brother, William, his wife, Jennifer, his aunt, his uncle. All eyes were on me. Amanda seems reluctant to honor our family traditions, Judith announced. I thought it might help if she heard from others who have joined our family successfully. One by one, the in-laws spoke about their dowry experiences. Jennifer called it an investment in my future. Aunt Patricia, the price of admission to a better life. Uncle's wife, Margaret, emphasized how it proved her commitment to family values. But as they spoke, I noticed something disturbing. None of them looked truly happy. Jennifer barely spoke unless prompted. Margaret deferred to her husband on every question. They seemed less like family members and more like employees, afraid to displease the boss. Then Richard spoke, surprising everyone. I paid too, Amanda. When I married Judith, her family required proof of my commitment. Judith looked annoyed. That was different. Your family wasn't established. The principle is the same, Richard said, then fell silent under his wife's glare. Finally, Ethan took my hand. Amanda, we all want you to be part of this family, but traditions matter. It's time to decide. Are you in or out? The ultimatum hung in the air. Everyone waited. I need to use the restroom, I said, needing a moment to breathe. In the hallway, I checked my phone. 3 urgent messages from Maria, my business partner. Amanda, emergency with Walker Industries. Judith called a meeting with our team this morning and threatened to terminate the contract over quality issues. She's telling other clients we're unreliable. We're already getting calls from Harrington Corporation asking if we're stable. My personal crisis had officially become a business crisis. Judith wasn't just threatening my relationship. She was attacking my company, my employees, everything I'd built. When I returned to the dining room, I could barely maintain my composure. The conversation had moved on to wedding plans. Plans for a wedding that would apparently only happen if I paid for the privilege. The country club is booked for June, Judith was saying. If Amanda confirms the dowry repayment this week, we can secure the date. And if I don't? I asked quietly. The room fell silent. Then there won't be a wedding, Ethan said firmly. I love you, Amanda, but this is non-negotiable. In that moment, looking at his face, so similar to his mother's in its cold resolve, I finally saw the truth. Ethan had never respected me or my accomplishments. To him, I was an acquisition, not a partner. His love was conditional, based on my compliance with his family's demands. I need to go, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Running away doesn't solve anything, Judith said dismissively. I'm not running, I countered. I'm leaving a situation that has become untenable. Ethan followed me to the door. Don't do this, Amanda. Think about what you're throwing away. I am, I said, looking him dead in the eye. And I'm wondering what I ever saw in a man who would let his mother throw wine in my face and then demand I pay for the privilege. The next day brought more bad news. Another major client called to cancel, citing concerns about our stability, concerns that had originated from Judith Walker. My company's reputation, built over 5 years of relentless hard work, was being systematically dismantled. By the end of the week, we'd lost 3 clients, and our stock was starting to drop. My dream, my employees' livelihoods, everything was suddenly at risk. I went home to my father in Chicago. He listened to the whole story without interrupting. This isn't about money, he said finally. It's about respect. If they don't respect you now, paying won't change that. But my company, Dad. Everything you've built was built on your intelligence and determination, Amanda, not on one client. Even a significant one. His confidence in me was the first step toward reclaiming my own. Back in Boston, I met my longtime mentor, Diana. You've faced a predator, she said bluntly. Judith identified your vulnerabilities, your love for her son, your business connection, and she exploited them. Classic power play. How do I fight back? I asked. She has more resources, more connections. Diana smiled. But you have something she doesn't expect, the ability to surprise her. Predators don't expect prey to turn and fight. With Diana's guidance, I developed a strategy. I reconnected with Taylor, a college friend who worked for the Boston Business Journal. Without naming names, I discussed the general situation. Old money families often use business ties as leverage in personal matters, Taylor told me. It's rarely reported because the victims fear retaliation. What if someone did report it? Taylor raised an eyebrow. It would make a compelling story about ethics and business relationships. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Next, I initiated a thorough investigation into Walker Industries. If Judith was willing to use her company as a weapon against me, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. My best analyst, James, delivered his report 3 days later. There are some concerning patterns, he said. Walker Industries has a history of abruptly terminating contracts with companies whose executives had personal conflicts with the family. There are also several instances of questionable accounting practices and potential labor violations. This wasn't just about me. The Walkers, particularly Judith, had a pattern of misusing their business power for personal vendettas. While James dug, I worked with my sales team to accelerate outreach to new clients, focusing on Walker Industries competitors. My CFO, Rachel, ran the numbers. Life without the Walker contract would hurt short-term, but we could recover within 2 quarters with these new prospects. That Thursday, I called an emergency board meeting. Our 7 board members listened gravely as I explained everything: the personal conflict, the business repercussions, and my proposed strategy. I won't pretend this isn't serious, I concluded. Walker Industries represents 20% of our revenue. Losing them will impact us. But continuing this relationship means submitting to unethical demands and setting a dangerous precedent. To my immense relief, the board unanimously supported my decision. Harold, our chairman, put it best: we didn't invest in this company to watch it become a puppet of old money bullies. We invested because you, Amanda, have integrity and vision. Throughout this period, Ethan continued his campaign. His texts swung between romantic pleas and thinly veiled threats. I miss you. Can't we work this out? Mom says several of your clients are considering switching to Comtech. I could talk to her. Don't throw away what we have over stubborn pride. The dowry isn't just about money. It's about proving you're not just after the Walker fortune. Each message clarified what I already knew. His loyalty would always be to his family and their twisted values, not to me or our relationship. The final piece of my strategy involved legal preparation. Our corporate counsel, Victoria, reviewed everything. They've actually given us grounds for a clean break, she said. These new demands constitute material changes to the original agreement. And these threats about damaging your reputation? That's tortious interference. If they try to penalize you for ending the relationship, we have a solid case. By Friday, 1 week after that horrible family dinner, my plan was in place. I had documentation, legal preparations, preliminary agreements with 2 new clients, and the unwavering support of my team. That evening, I received a text from Ethan. Mom's patience is running out. Last chance to make this right. Dinner at her house tomorrow to finalize everything. Be there at 7. I texted back a single word, no. Instead, I sent a formal email to Judith requesting a meeting at my office on Monday morning. Subject line: resolution of business relationship. Her reply came within minutes. I'll be there. Come prepared to discuss both business and personal matters. I was prepared, just not in the way she expected. All weekend, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would say it. I practiced power poses, determined to project confidence, even if I didn't fully feel it. Sunday night, Ethan came to my apartment unannounced. You're making a mistake, he said, both pleading and condescending. Mom is willing to forgive your stubbornness if you come tomorrow with a dowry and an apology. I looked at the man I had thought I would marry and felt nothing but sadness for what could have been. I'll be there tomorrow, I said, but not for the reasons you think. As he left, I removed his engagement ring and placed it in an envelope. The emerald that had once symbolized our future now represented a bullet dodged. Monday morning, I wore my most powerful outfit, a tailored black suit with subtle red accents. Judith Walker arrived precisely at 9 a.m., impeccable in a designer suit, carrying herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting her way. My assistant showed her into our main conference room, where I waited alone. I wanted this confrontation to be personal. Amanda, she said, taking a seat. I'm pleased you've finally come to your senses. Ethan will be relieved. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Walker, I replied, keeping my tone professional. But I think you've misunderstood the purpose of this meeting. Her smile faltered slightly. Oh? I assumed we were finalizing the dowry arrangement and addressing those contract modifications. Actually, we're here to discuss the termination of our business relationship. The change in her expression was subtle but unmistakable, a flicker of surprise, quickly masked. That would be unwise, she said. Walker Industries represents a significant portion of your company's revenue. And, of course, there's Ethan to consider. I've considered everything very carefully, I said, opening a folder in front of me. In the past month, you've made numerous demands outside our contractual agreement, threatened my company's reputation with other clients, and attempted to use our business relationship to coerce me in personal matters. I slid several documents across the table, printouts of emails, meeting notes, the text message exchange between her and Ethan. What I initially thought was just an unpleasant personal interaction has revealed itself as a pattern of unethical business conduct. Her eyes narrowed as she glanced at the evidence. You're making a grave mistake. No, Mrs. Walker. The mistake was thinking I needed to tolerate abuse to be successful. I've secured 2 new clients to replace Walker Industries' business, Meridian Global and Frost Technologies. The mention of her competitors visibly rattled her. They don't have our resources or influence, she scoffed. Perhaps not, I agreed, but they value our services on their merits, not as leverage for personal agendas. I pulled out another document. This is our formal notice of contract termination, as permitted under Section 8.3 of our agreement. Your recent demands constitute material changes to the original terms. This is absurd. Your legal team will advise you that fighting this would expose some concerning practices within Walker Industries. I placed another folder on the table. My team found several instances of questionable accounting, potential labor violations, and a pattern of contract terminations that could be construed as tortious interference. For the first time, Judith looked genuinely alarmed. You're investigating us? I'm protecting my company, something I should have done sooner. I leaned forward. I'm not interested in damaging Walker Industries, Mrs. Walker. I simply want a clean break, both professionally and personally. At that moment, my assistant entered with a small package. Perfect timing, I said, taking it. This is for Ethan. I opened the package to reveal the engagement ring, nestled in a corporate courier envelope. I'm returning this with the same level of dignity and respect you showed me at our dinner. Judith's face flushed with anger. You ungrateful, I'm not finished, I interrupted, my voice steady. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not buying a husband, Mrs. Walker. I'm building a life, one based on mutual respect and genuine partnership, not financial transactions disguised as tradition. I stood up, signaling the conversation was ending. Effective immediately, my company is terminating all contracts with Walker Industries. The transition documents are included in that folder, along with the contact information for our legal team should you have questions. Judith also rose, her composure cracking. You won't get away with this. Do you have any idea who we are in this community? One word from me and doors will close for you everywhere. That might have worked in the past, I acknowledged. But times have changed. Bullying and threats leave paper trails now, and stories about powerful families using their businesses to settle personal scores make compelling headlines. You wouldn't dare. I'd prefer not to, I said honestly. This can end cleanly. Mrs. Walker, you go your way, I go mine. Or you can escalate, and we can see how today's business community responds to your methods. For a long moment, she just stared at me, calculation visible in her eyes. Then she gathered her purse. Ethan deserves better than you, she said coldly. On that, we agree, I replied. But for different reasons. Security will escort you out. As she reached the door, I added one more thing. Mrs. Walker, that $200,000 you wanted? I'm donating it to a scholarship fund for Generation Entrepreneurs. I thought you should know. After Judith left, I sat alone in the conference room, my hands trembling with the aftermath of adrenaline. I had done it. I had stood up to her, protected my company, and freed myself from a relationship that would have slowly crushed my spirit. The fallout was immediate but manageable. Walker Industries issued a bland statement about differing business philosophies. Several society events suddenly lost my invitations. Ethan sent a final text calling me the biggest mistake of his life. But there were unexpected positives, too. That evening, I received a call from an unknown number. "Amanda, this is Richard Walker." I braced myself for more threats. "I wanted to apologize," he said instead. "What Judith did, what we all did, was inexcusable. I sat silent while you were humiliated, and I'm ashamed of that." His voice sounded different, older, but somehow more alive. "Thank you for saying that, Mr. Walker." "Richard, please." He paused. "I've enabled Judith's behavior for years, watching her drive away good people who didn't meet her arbitrary standards. Seeing your courage today, it's given me some things to think about." 2 weeks later, Business News reported Richard Walker had taken a leave of absence from Walker Industries to reassess priorities. Rumor had it he'd moved out of the family mansion. The industry fallout I'd feared never fully materialized. Yes, a few doors closed. But for every closed door, 2 more opened. My stand against the Walkers had resonated with others who had experienced similar treatment, but lacked the means to fight back. 1 month after the confrontation, our contract with Meridian Global was officially signed, a larger deal than we'd ever had with Walker Industries. The press release included a quote from their CEO: "We value partners who demonstrate integrity in both business practices and personal ethics." It was the sweetest victory of all. 6 months passed. My company not only survived the separation from Walker Industries, but thrived. We diversified our client base, added 15 new clients, expanded to Seattle, and launched a new product line that was exceeding sales projections. The quarterly reports showed a 22% increase in revenue. The transition hadn't been entirely smooth, but my core team had rallied, working longer hours and bringing innovative solutions to new challenges. Ethan attempted to reconcile several times. His texts oscillated between "Mom was wrong," "I was wrong," "Can we talk?" to flowers with a note, "I miss your strength and intelligence," dinner without my family's involvement. Finally, he showed up at my apartment one evening, looking disheveled and humbled. "I've been seeing a therapist," he said. "I'm starting to understand how dysfunctional my family's dynamics are." Part of me wanted to believe him. The connection we'd shared had been real, at least on my side. But his betrayal had cut too deep. "I'm glad you're getting help, Ethan," I told him. "But we can't go back. If you've changed, do it for yourself, not to win me back." As he left, I felt a weight lifting, the final remnants of what if and maybe someday that had lingered in my heart. More surprisingly, I developed a friendship with Richard Walker. After leaving his wife, he rented a modest apartment and began reconnecting with friends Judith had deemed unsuitable. We occasionally met for coffee, where he shared insights from his therapy and his regrets. "I thought protecting the Walker name meant preserving traditions," he said. "I never questioned whether those traditions deserved preservation." Through Richard, I learned that my stand had created ripples throughout their social circle. Jennifer, Ethan's sister-in-law, had begun attending business school, something Judith had previously forbidden. Other Walker in-laws started demanding respect in their family roles. My company received unexpected recognition for ethical business practices. The Boston Business Journal published a feature on companies that maintained integrity despite pressure from larger entities. The article never named the Walkers, but the message was clear. This publicity led to speaking engagements where I shared my signature message: success built on compromise of core values isn't success. It's just a prettier version of failure. Perhaps the most healing development came 9 months after the confrontation. At a tech conference, I met Marcus, the founder of a cybersecurity firm. Our connection was immediate, intellectual, personal, and founded on mutual respect. When I eventually shared the Walker story, his response was refreshingly straightforward. "That's their loss and my gain," he said simply. "Anyone who can't see your worth at face value doesn't deserve access to it." Our relationship developed slowly, built on 2 equals creating something meaningful together. 1 year after my confrontation with Judith, I attended an industry gala and unexpectedly encountered Ethan. He was there with his new girlfriend, a woman from a family apparently wealthy enough to satisfy Judith. "Amanda," he said, approaching me. "You look well." Thank you. So do you. An awkward silence stretched between us. I've been meaning to tell you, he finally said. You were right to stand up to my mother. And to me. We were wrong. I appreciate that, Ethan. Your company is doing amazing things. That new security platform is brilliant. Thank you. I heard you're heading up the European division now. Congratulations. He nodded, then hesitated. She still talks about you. You know, Mom, she'll never admit it, but you're the only person who ever stood up to her and won. As he walked away, I realized I felt nothing but a calm certainty that I had escaped a life that would have slowly eroded my self-worth. Later that evening, I received an Industry Innovation Award for our new platform. Standing at the podium, looking out at a room full of peers who valued my work on its merits, I thought about the journey of the past year. Success isn't just about building something valuable, I said in my acceptance speech. It's about refusing to devalue yourself in the process. Sometimes the most important business decision you'll make is walking away from the wrong opportunity, the wrong partnership, or the wrong relationship. The lessons from the Walker experience had transformed both my personal and professional approach. I became more discerning about partnerships, more attentive to early warning signs of power imbalances, and more confident in my own worth. My company now had an explicit ethics policy that prohibited the kind of boundary violations Judith had attempted. We walked away from potentially lucrative deals when they came with strings that compromised our values. Most importantly, I had learned that true strength often lies not in fighting hardest, but in knowing when to walk away. The $200,000 dowry would have been financially manageable, but the cost to my dignity would have been incalculable. The right relationship and the right business partnerships will value you not for what you can pay, but for who you are and what you bring to the table. Never settle for less than the respect you deserve. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship or business opportunity that came with unacceptable conditions? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story helped you recognize your own worth, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself in both personal and professional situations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your dignity is never for sale.